What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to an all-new episode of TAETRO Talks here on 343 TV. Thank you all for joining us today. Back with a live episode. I know we haven't been live in a couple weeks, but I'm excited to be back live with all of you. So thank you all who are tuning in to this live. We have a great guest today, but before we get into that, I want to do a couple housekeeping things. So first things first, if you are watching on my channel, awesome. That's the chat I'm looking at right now because I only have one chat in front of me. But don't forget that we are live with 343 TV every single day on youtube.com/. 343 Labs. So you can tune into that every single day for a different music production show. Claire Lim, aka Doll Trick, she's got an Ableton show on Mondays. My show is on Tuesdays. We've got home studio music production stuff on Wednesdays, Theory Thursdays. Abe Duque on Fridays, who's got like a really awesome show, Production Basics, but he does like the news. He does a lot of really cool topical stuff. And then Saturdays is Techno with John Selway, which is really cool. So make sure you're subscribed at youtube.com/343 Labs for all that good stuff. Link is in the description for everything we're going to talk about today, including info on our guest and the school 343 Labs, where you can take classes, especially if some of you have New Year's resolutions to, become a better producer or performer. We've got a class for you: Logic, Ableton, mixing, mastering, synthesis, all taught by masters in their field, I must say. So consider that 343labs.com. The link is in the description, and all that good stuff. But I don't want to talk too much. I do want to say hello to the folks in our chat first before we jump into the interview. So who's here today? Chrono is here. As some of you may know, in our streams, we sometimes do giveaways. And Chrono says, I won the Splice giveaway and I've used it to create some sweet songs. Thanks for that. Yes, awesome. That's what I like to hear. Edward, what's going on? Welcome to the chat. The Real AJ, Ethan Isles, SK, Tyra White is here. What's going on, Tyra? My mom is here. Great. Thank you. Hello, Mom. Enigmatic Onion. Nice to see you. Sai, Rohan. 343 Labs is in the chat. So all you have to do is click their name. Ray Calvin, Gayosi Rossi. What is going on? Welcome to everybody who's in the chat. Thank you for hanging out. Without further ado, let's talk about our guest. Our guest today is an amazing Italian DJ producer. He's played amazing clubs, amazing venues, has so many releases under his belt. Let's go ahead and introduce him, our guest. Fedele, welcome. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Hi, everyone. What's up?
I'm so excited to have you here today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Today, it's a special occasion because you actually have a pro sessions coming up with 343 Labs, which we'll talk about later. So if folks like what they hear from our guest today, you can actually learn with him over the course of a weekend, which I think is a cool opportunity. But let's talk about that later. And, one of the ways I like to start these interviews is by asking the artist, the guest, how do you define yourself? Because I gave you a really short intro there, DJ, producer. I feel like that doesn't encapsulate quite everything you do. But when people ask you hey, what do you do? What do you tell them?
Yeah, first of all, I consider myself a real music lover. That's for sure.
That's important.
Yeah, that's the main thing. Then I consider myself someone who strongly believed in, and that's kind of a dream we always had, when you're kind of a kid, and then you want to get into music, and then you want to try to do this for the rest of your life, and then achieve some goals, and then you make it, and then you're so happy and proud of yourself in a way.
Is that how you feel? Is that the moment you're in? Is that like the stage you're in your life? You look back, you feel proud, you feel like
I've done some of those things, but there's so much more to achieve.
Always building.
Yeah, it's always because once you start, it's like an addiction. You start from a point, you want to reach something, and then you reach it, and then you are like, okay, what? So what? I played, I don't know, like an amazing club or amazing festival, and then I played Awakening. So it was like, wow, this is my dream, blah blah blah. And then it was like, okay, but so what? I want to play Time Warp. I want to play this and that. It's always putting some more steps, and then that's how you reach better and better goals.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting process, like being an artist in that mindset. I have a very similar mindset. Like you have goals, you achieve them, but it's never just like, okay, now it's over. It's always like, what's the next goal? What's the next thing I
Yeah,
want to go
exactly.
for? Have you always been like that? Like early on in your like musical endeavors or in your life, were you always like super ambitious and goal driven and, wanting to accomplish these big things?
Yeah, I mean, I always been like super ambitious. Like I never wanted to stop to crave for something and to look for, like that. It's a kind of emotion as well. You get from achieving your goals. You get more secure of yourself. You acknowledge what you can do, and it's a non-stop thing. It's always like this is like kind of a drive that pushes people
Yeah.
to go ahead and do what they do. Like I think it's the same for you or other, like even like young artists, but like an advice is always like never put like a limit. There's never a limit. I never would have imagined, like I come from Italy,
Yeah.
which is like super small city, and then like someone calls you to go play in Australia. For me it was like
Mind
impossible.
blowing. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, it's really happening. Yeah, it is. I mean, that means that there's never like really something that you cannot do. You just have to believe and go for it. Like no matter what, like you have to
Yeah.
make it.
Let's talk about how all this started because I look at your setup there. You've got all your cool gear. You're
Yeah.
chilling. You mentioned like being from Italy. What I think about this all the time with a lot of my guests who are into music production and electronic music. You want to get into music, and if you go to a music store, not only is it very easy to buy a guitar or like a drum set or something, but it's also very easy to learn those things. So I wonder, like, when you were first like inspired or first getting started to get into electronic music, like how did that all start? Who introduced you to it? How did you even start learning how to do some of this stuff?
So basically, my history, it's about like I was a young DJ, like not even a DJ, someone who wanted to be a DJ.
Okay.
Like when I was like really really young. And funny thing, I was like going to clubs like at the age of like, I don't know, I was like around, it was 2005, I was around 12. There was like this super party for young kids, like from
Oh,
8 p.m to midnight.
like a
Yeah, like
kids club.
yeah, like a school party kind of.
Yeah.
So once I got in there with my cousin, it was like the one brought me there for the first time. I was like amazed and shocked by what the DJ was doing, because at the time I remember there was this record. This was the most shocking things.
Okay.
I saw this guy playing a record from Master the Works, like it's like a samba groove, something like that. It's
Nice.
some sites say, like this track. And then this guy was playing with a cappella of Gets Knocked from Roman Flugel on top, even I don't know, Rune Calabria and stuff like that. It was playing, and the people were going nuts. So I was like, wow, I want to do this, like. So what I was doing is like going to clubs, standing completely right next to the DJ and just watching
Wow.
all the time, not doing anything else, not drinking, not smoking, nothing, just being there, sitting there or standing and just watching. And then like after a while, a couple of times, I went back home, and then I bought my first turntables.
That's great. So you started
And
learning
then
on turntables.
yeah, and then started experimenting with that and doing even the same things I was watching the night before.
Yeah.
So, and then like then I started to realize, okay, I know how to do this, but now I want to do it my way.
Yeah.
So I was changing stuff. So for example, I was using different acapellas and stuff like that. Then after that, once I realized I could be able to DJ, I started proposing myself to clubs and this kind of parties.
Yeah.
And of course, I started from a different kind of music. I started from a hip hop.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I was like, like jumping from this, like this genre to another one. And then I stepped into productions because I wanted
Before
to
we
make
get
my own.
there, can we talk
Yeah.
can we just hone in on something a little bit, because I think it's
Yeah, sure.
inspiring the way you talked about like seeing this DJ and literally just watching this DJ do everything that they were doing, getting your own turntables and then trying to just recreate it and then put your own spin on it. Like, were you just completely self-taught in that way, where you were just like observing and then applying and then problem solving from there? Like,
Yeah, I've done everything by my own. Like, I have no one in my family doing music, and no one could teach me about that, like.
right.
And but then, like, I started from software. At the time I was using virtual DJ,
Okay.
like super basic,
Right.
and you could change even the covers. You could use different, like at the time you could change the skins. And then,
Very
like, I
cool.
was experimenting. And, there was one thing I never got really straight away the first time I was watching. It was the pitch from the CDJs.
Right.
And I was like, how does it work? Nobody told me. So I was like, but then I found out myself with the program. I started and I saw like it was like pitching up and down. So, like in a way, I figured out myself that the mechanism was this one. And then, like I started doing it with that. And then I passed to the turntables once I got the technique.
I feel like some of everything you just described is getting a little bit lost today, because today you can look up a tutorial and everything. And I think that's simultaneously like a great thing, but also like a kind of not so great thing, because people don't have the experience of reverse engineering, which is kind of like why I even started my channel, because even when I started, there were lots of very cool sessions on YouTube, but not a lot of cool instructional like tutorial content. So I wanted to reverse engineer some of the cool stuff, which I was already doing, but show people how to do it. And now I feel there's so much showing that people don't acquire that same skill anymore of having to reverse engineer and figure things out for themselves. Because when you do that, you kind of, not only do you discover how the person was doing something, but you also discover new ways or your own ways or like new things that people haven't before.
Exactly. And then I think also your brain get affected by this thing in some way.
Sure.
So it's like, I don't know, it's like a part of a brain, like it's a creative, or I don't know, discovering, like curiosity, stuff like that. It gets bigger and bigger. And this, like this thing helped me out a lot in the production as well later on. But I will tell you more like about how I use this kind of things also in the production, because everything is about figuring out. I mean, if you figure out yourself, it's better in a way, like,
absolutely.
Of course it's easier when someone tells you, but if you reach that level that you know how to do it by yourself, you're going to feel even better and prouder of yourself. You know what I mean?
And it's just easier to get stuff done if you don't have to rely on anybody like showing you how to do it and stuff. Let's talk about that transition though, from DJ to production world.
Yeah, this was like kind of obvious, I think. Like, of course, once you start playing around and, like you want to get into production, you're like, okay, I want to make my own record, my own tracks. So, like at the time I had no one still to discuss with and to see how you could produce the record. So I didn't even know which was the process, like which software, or it was a machine. I didn't know anything, zero. So I don't know how. I think I was a little bit older then, and I met a DJ who came to play. It was a guest DJ. And then I was switching already to the like the regular parties, like from midnight on. And then someone told me about Reason, the software.
Got it.
So I was like, okay, now I need to get this.
Yeah.
And I've downloaded Reason, and then there was like this super weird, complicated thing for me.
Right.
No tutorial, nothing online. It could be like crazy, but then like you figured out it was also exploring the software. There was a mixer, then you can plug and wire cables as well, and then you have these machines. But yeah, after playing it around with it a little bit, I started making some stuff. Of course they were like super shit because it was like just the beginning.
It's your first
beginning.
Yeah, it's your first productions.
Yeah, but in the end, like I was always satisfied because it was always
It's the
work in
best you
progress.
can do at that time.
Yeah, but
Can you talk more about that? Because I talk a lot about that too, where it's like beginners, I feel like, can get very easily discouraged if the first thing they make isn't amazing, like isn't like what they want to do. But if it's the best you can do at the time, like that's progress for you. You can't compare yourself to like the records on the radio and stuff like that.
well, I mean, I know, but sometimes our minds gets lost. Like
Totally.
you think you get sit on the computer, and then like this, you have a hit. Like coming up from the sky. Like
True.
but it's a lot of work. Sometimes it works. Like we have a lot of examples of artists that can make that, like they did for probably their first track ever, and then it was like a huge record. But
Yeah.
it's a combination of things. It's many, but like I think we all should be happy on with what we can do at the time where we are at now. But of course, we never have to be. If we want to reach a better level, we have to work for it. You know what I mean? Like we have to really push and spend time, and like eating our heads on the wall until like sometimes I have this, like sometimes when I want to reach, like I want to make a track perfect or bigger, and like I stay for weeks, and then until like there's blood coming up from my ears. Like, but that's because like I want to reach a good level.
Totally.
But then of course, like beginners, like once they do it, like it's okay. Like it's a path. You're not starting from nobody is born with all the knowledge of this world. You have to create a kind of a baggage behind your back.
Yeah. What kept you going during that? Like, what kept you from getting discouraged? And what, like, you seem like a very positive guy with a very ambitious mindset. Like, where does that come from? Because a lot of people can get very easily discouraged, but you seem always goal driven, but then always also acknowledging like your own progress and your own journey, like absent of any comparison. Like, it doesn't seem like you spent much time comparing yourself to anybody else during this journey.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I try to not compare myself to anybody else because I want to, first of all, try to sound different than anybody else.
Sure.
Find my own way. But then also about the figuring out things by yourself, I also figured out that all the best producers, all the best artists, they all have something in common. They all sound unique. So instead of like, for example, making tracks, I want to, like sometimes, like back in the days, I even started projects like watching what others were doing and trying to do the same, to emulate a bit, to get even a bit of inspiration. But then I stopped doing this because you could get always super close to the reference track or whatever. But then the goal to be successful and unique is to find out yourself, your own way of making your own music. Like you have to sound like yourself, not like anybody else.
Totally.
So you have to learn, and you have to build your own method of creating something, like using your sound that you create by yourself, and I don't know, having a different way of arranging a track, or I don't know, anything just that can make you unique. That's the goal.
Yeah.
The goal is not just to finish a track, it's to make a special track. Anyway, anytime, I think.
That line is perfect. It's not to just finish a track. It's to make I think a lot of us get caught up in just finishing a track sometimes, instead of making something special that is inherently us. That's really cool. We have a very nice comment from Francesco Franco in the chat. It says, I have known Fedele since I was little with the Agents of Time. He is known here in, how do I say this city? Puglia? Bari? Puglia. Because he has created a new musical movement of new music. I wish him a full life of music. That was a very nice compliment.
Thank you. That's amazing.
Yeah. And if anybody else has comments, questions, please do drop them in the chat. My chat got a little bit delayed, but I'm back up. So thank you all, the folks who have just kind of hopped in and joined. I appreciate you. I see you all. Thank you. Ask your questions, and I will relay them for sure. So that's very, very inspiring. You're getting into production. how do these two worlds fit together? Because sometimes it can feel very separate. Do you feel like learning the DJing aspect first and then going into production was good for you? Like, was that a good process, a good way to go about it?
Well, it was really a key thing to make it a bit different.
Yeah.
So like I started like DJing, but at the same time, I was also like kind of helping this kind of. It was a crew of people where I was supposed to be DJing, but it was not always like that.
Yeah.
You have to struggle and stuff, but still, at the time you could breathe a bit of club um, structure, so you could like you could see DJs and artists and blah blah blah, and then this made me seen so many, for example, live acts or DJs. So even like experiencing what would be a record that could really work on the dance floor.
Yeah.
And this, in a way, I put this knowledge and background into my music, and especially into my live set when I was playing with Agents of Time.
Sure.
So the difference was simple. Like sometimes you have people who makes this kind of live sets, but then at some point it gets boring.
Right.
That's because there's not that much interaction between the artist and the crowd. While once I've built my setup with them, it was we were aiming just for having like a super interactive, and like um there was the goal was to build a setup to make a live that was like closer to a DJ set thing. It
Right.
was giving us a lot of opportunities to interact with the sound and of course with the crowd.
So
I was in the middle at the mixer, so I could decide which sound that's to go in, which sound that's to go
yeah.
out. And I was even reading about some books and stuff, and I found like back in the days a really interesting um, tip about the neural and neurological things and the
Sure.
music.
Yeah.
And there was this thing about the drop. Why the drop it exists?
Yeah.
Because
Why does the
and
drop
it,
exist? Tell us.
yeah, the drop I mean, it's everything is physical and it's science. So basically, we have a membrane in the ears that decompress once we get like how you say enough pressure of sounds. So this membrane compress.
Yeah.
So the drops works like this. Once you cut off the bass, this membrane it relaxes itself.
Yeah.
It's like this, and it relax. And then at some point when the bass comes in again, this is like shrinking like this. But in this effect brings you adrenaline in the body.
That's great. I love
So
that. I love hearing that. It makes so much sense.
So it's a real physical how you say reaction,
Yeah.
which is like you can apply in the drop. You have That's why I always used to kind of filter the bass up
Yep.
as much as I can, and then it comes stronger.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. That's why we have all of these things.
I think like approaching it like that, electronic music has such a it's easy to make electronic music that maybe sounds sterile and absent of like humanity and organics. But when you approach it like that, like that's biological, what you just described. So when you're talking about creating electronic music for the dance floor, that is purely electronic, but built with the mindset of like humans and humanity and biology. I don't know. I think that that's really cool, and it comes through in the music for sure.
Yeah, I mean, when we are like addicted by synths and stuff, we all say we are, music production is always about being a nerd, stuff like that. Why don't you want to be a even more nerd, like getting into science, biology, technology? And I think it's super interesting. I mean, I always get interested by like this kind of scientific things. And yesterday I was on the Instagram and I saw like the first neural synthesizer.
Oh wow!
It was like it was crazy. It was a page I don't even remember, but like you have these machines that there was a drummer playing with a microphone. It was sending inputs like via microphones, and there was a big modular system interacting and responding to what it was doing.
Wow, that's
It was
crazy.
insane.
I'm
Yeah, it
I'm
was
sure
insane.
you'll be one of the first to bring something like that to the club.
Yeah, I wish. I mean, you need to have time. This guy like dedicated, I think, 12 years of his life
Wow.
doing this. Like it's not that easy, but yeah, it's interesting. I really find it interesting.
Yeah, for sure it is. Folks in the chat asking about links. I have links to all Fedele's. Like he's got a link tree, so I put that in the chat, which is cool. So you will find anything that you want to see, any platform you want to listen to or watch. I recommend opening it up in a second tab, listening while we do this interview. I think that is a good approach. But yes, Boris in the chat also says bass drops cause dopamine levels to raise in the brain. Yeah, I think it's so much happening during the drop of a song. Like it is that biological reaction that you just talked about with the membrane in the ear, but then it is also like the psychological, like the tension and release of the music all at the same time to just, really make some magic. I wonder if you have any stories from the club days back when we, were able to go outside and go to clubs and play clubs and things like that. You have any very cool, exciting stories of like a set you played and you're just killing it, or like what made it so great? Like any cool stories from the life on the stage?
Yeah, well, I mean, like there are like some really cool stuff, like really cool nights. I remember, but this is just really, really like an old memory. It feels like like it's so long. I'm craving. I'm starving to go back to play again.
I believe it.
I actually have a gig in December for New Year's. It's like luckily, but like going back to tour life. I mean, I had some experiences. Like I remember really well. There was a gig in Colombia, in Bogota. There was a festival. It's the Baum Festival. This one was for sure one of my highlights ever, because this was probably maybe one of the biggest festival I played.
Sure.
And there was this combination of things between the sound, like I was playing live with a band, and we used to do sound checks and stuff like that. This time we just went for a line check. So while another artist was playing, we were plugging all the machines, and like with the headphones, checking the levels and everything.
Yeah.
And then I don't know why the time was sounding like dope. And I remember the opening set, the opening track, because also we used to improvise, so it was everything spontaneous. And the first track was like worked like super well, like insane. Like people went super crazy. I think I was checking videos like the other day online. There's something on YouTube, like people was like jumping, screaming. It was like insane.
It just hit perfectly at the time.
Yeah, this was something to remember. There was another time when I played Fabric in London. I remember there was a drop we did on the main room. I remember like the club seems to me from the stage it was going down, like people was jumping, and this was crazy.
How
there are so many stuff.
I want to ask, like, since you have that hybrid background of like DJ and production, how much of what you started doing became completely hybrid? Like how much of it was completely original music mixed with other people's music, like DJing, like, and then what is the process around that? Like, are you including, external synths and external instruments? Like what was the general mindset around how you were building up a live set, I guess?
So basically the beginning when I started, like I didn't have like that much synthesizers, just that like, I think I had a Moog, like Little Fatty, which is this one here. Still I still have it. Then I had one drum machine, and it was the MFB Dance Bar, the red one, super small, super tiny. And then I got Nordly 2X plus, like the computer. Then I started producing, blah blah. And then I was like getting into the step. I was like, okay, I wanna perform live. How do I get there? How do I do, like things like that? And then, I remember the time I started gigging live with the computer.
Okay.
And then on the side, I was laying up there or just substituting the melodies or, bass lines or whatever. I was playing the SH 101 with I would call it like carpet of sounds, like they were going in the background.
Yeah.
So with the sync, I was using like, I think TR8 and SH 101, like, and layered stuff up on that. But then once I've, like I experienced a lot of parties, festivals, whatever, I felt I could be able to improvise.
Yeah.
So like with the other, like with my partner, like we removed the computers, and so we started from scratch, full analog, only machines. Like we were three, of course. So I was the drummer, like and I'm in the mixer. So I will choose which sounds going in and out, and also use some synthesizers. But then like what really helped us was like the gears, like because once the Artura Beats the Pro came out,
Yep.
you could save in some sequences and things like that. So it was kind of easy to
Totally.
even reperform your tracks. But then also it depends from the way you produce in the studio, because if you are able to produce in the way you perform,
Yep.
then it makes it much more easier.
Totally.
Like it's hard to, for example, bring a track you made like super complicated and stuff and to perform it live.
Right.
If
Without
you
it
have
just
so
being
many,
a track playing in the background or something.
yeah. So if you have so many effects and stuff, you have to figure it out how to perform. And of course, you're not able to do everything from scratch,
Yeah,
So you
of
have
course.
to take care only about, I don't know, a bass or drums, but you cannot like redo the track exactly the same.
Yeah. So does it drive some of the creative process? Were you creating tracks specifically with the stage in mind? And did that influence, were you then producing maybe in a more simple way than you would a full on just regular production that wasn't meant to be performed?
I mean, I will take care also about the way I would perform the track.
Of course.
But like mainly the most important things in the track, I have to think that I have to perform it live.
Yep.
But this is always a matter of, for example, once you get to a certain level and you want people to recognize your tracks, then you have to do it. But if you're like if you wanna just play live in a club, that's fine, you can do whatever you want. But like I'm talking about when I did like gigs for 10,000 people on the stage, and they know my track and they want to hear it live. So
Right.
you have to like put your brain and say, okay, I need to perform this track.
Yeah.
I mean, not necessarily, but like of course, if someone pays the tickets to go listen to your show, then you want to hear the
You want to
track.
deliver the thing that they're looking forward to hearing.
Yeah. And imagine you go to, I don't know, Depeche Mode concert and they don't do the track that you like.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
You get disappointed,
Yeah. Which do you prefer? Do you prefer the more improvisational stuff, or do you prefer playing more of like the recognizable tracks?
I definitely like the improvisational part.
Right.
Because I don't like, to be honest, in general, like to get to make things easier. Like it's, for me, it's too easy. In a way, it's disappointing if you just improvise, but then still you can make a different version of that track every time.
Sure.
It's always more interesting.
And how much of
you never know.
How much of your live sets became that? Playing almost kind of the same thing, having maybe the same set list, but it's a little different every night. Is that kind of how it goes?
Well, there was a time that we performed for 12 hours live.
Whoa, that's a challenge.
Yeah, and there's a full video on YouTube. You could watch it. That's
amazing.
I mean, there was something prepared, but of course you could see there was so much just came at the moment. And I can tell you, like after 3-4 hours playing live or DJ, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I mean, at least for me, my brain starts working in a different way. It's like, I don't know, it's something weird that it happens in the atmosphere. Maybe something you drink, if you drink a bit of alcohol or whatever, is the lights in the club, the sound system. I don't know. At some point, I reach a level like my brain and my ears works exactly the same as the sound.
Sure.
And like you break this kind of imaginary barrier, and you go over for like it's a weird thing. I don't know how to explain. Like
It goes back to the biology you were talking about before. We got to dig into
Yeah,
this.
yeah. I think there's something with it. I think there's like, even like, for example, I experienced like, like I played so many after parties and stuff. Like, for example, once you don't sleep that much,
Yeah.
I don't know, it feels magic. Like records, they comes together to each other like super well, super smooth. Then you record a set, and the next day you're like, wow, it's amazing. I don't know what it is. It's just like not sleeping makes you higher, stuff like that.
Sure. Did you ever struggle with the lifestyle of the DJ producer, like out super late, playing lots of after parties, not getting a ton of sleep? Like what was adapting and growing into that lifestyle like? Did you ever struggle with it?
To be honest with you, I loved it. I
That's
love it,
great.
of course. I mean, I think like I talk only about my experience. Like the job is not about playing, because for me I could really play for as long as you want. I
Sure.
mean, as long as I wish. The real job is about taking planes. This will kill
The
you.
traveling.
Yeah, yeah. The traveling is killing you, because then imagine there was an year 2016. I also had my girlfriend was not from Italy, so I traveled more and more. Plus doing gigs. That year, I think I did like 120 gigs in a
Whoa.
year. Yeah, and plus like moving for different reasons. And then imagine I lived in Bari, in the south of Italy, which is not the main connection, so you have to do Bari, Rome.
Right.
So every weekend it was like 4 flights and stuff. I made a calculation; it was about 400 flights in a year.
Yeah. You
And
must really love what you do.
yeah, but that was tough, like, because like then you're all the time on the plane, restaurants, hotels. I was that year like, I think 30 days home. That's it, in
Wow.
a year. So like that feeling, it can make you sick, like in the head, even like I want to stop with it, or you want to take a break.
Sure.
Like if it's too intense, that's it. I mean, that's you can risk that, like try flying all the time, not sleeping. But for the rest, it's fine. Once you get there on stage, it's like the best feeling.
Absolutely. I guess that's what drives it for sure. That's really
Yeah,
amazing to hear. I don't know how you do it. I also hear stories about like the DJs who do the New Year's gigs, and you try to play like 3 gigs on New Year's, so you constantly like flying back in
yeah,
time, to other cities.
yeah,
That's just crazy.
yeah.
Um,
We've done that. We've done that.
tell
It's
me about that. Do you have a story about that? That would be cool to hear.
Yeah, yeah. There was so many times I played. Like, for example, in the summer, you have it's usually happens in Belgium and Holland, because they are so close to each other.
Yeah.
So you play festival in the afternoon there, then you go to Holland, or the opposite, and then maybe you have in the night you have Istanbul, and then
Whoa.
you have to do 3 gigs in a day, which is for me, it's insane. But also you don't realize anything. You don't realize anything because it's
You don't have
everything is
time.
so fast.
Yeah.
Everything is so fast. Right now, I have the feeling I got back to a normal life,
Sure.
and sometimes I'm like thinking about like those times. I was like, wow, I really did that. I don't even remember. Like
Right.
everything
Happens
it
so
happens so
fast.
fast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, another bad thing about it's like once you travel, for example, you don't realize anything because it's summer here. Then you go to a winter place.
Oh, yeah.
Or for example, I used to go to Tulum every year. This year I'm not going, but I'm going to Ivory Coast, which is like summer time, so
Yeah.
it's hot. So you get there, and then you're not living the winter like properly, and then
Right.
you don't know what's happening. It's a weird thing, like
For sure. Are
you
you
can get lost with it.
are you completely like dying to get back to it because things have been just so on
Yeah.
hold?
Yeah, I cannot hide this. Like it's been too long now. Like I mean, I just miss a lot. Like even traveling in a safe way. Now I have this gig. I'm still a bit scared. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna get. You have to be careful. You cannot hug people. It's not easy.
It's
But yeah,
it
I'm
is tough.
definitely missing it. Like
Yeah. Cool question from
And
Max Wild in the chat. Did you feel it was important for your career to play that much, to gig as often as you did, or were you doing it for financial reasons? Like, did you ever get to a point where you're turning gigs down, or you just loved it, so you kept taking them, or
yeah, well, I mean, I shouldn't be saying this, but I never cared too much about the money, because money always like came and went away, because like these are all where my money at, like
Sure,
records,
comes in and
synths.
then it goes into the
Yeah,
synths.
yeah. So I mean, I never did it for financial reason, to be honest. Like I rather like do something else, or have a real job, which I like. But I did it for the passion mostly. Like I really like to play and to communicate with the crowd.
Yeah, totally.
It's I don't know. For me, it's the most important thing. Also, like once you play for the people, you get back to the studio with fresh mind, new
Totally.
energy exchange, and you can place this into your music. I think it's so important. Right now, I'm struggling myself to make club music, for example. It's
Right.
not
I was
easy.
going to ask, how has this
Yeah,
time being stuck at home affected the writing and what you're making?
I mean, like it's from one side, it's a nice moment to reflect, to think, and to like uh think what you want to do next, where you want to go. You're doing things right, you're doing things wrong. Other side, you want to make music, but like your mind is not used to this lifestyle anymore. So once I sit down here, i make I used to make things a bit more softer and more for the listening, which is not bad. But of course, in this time you want to make big track for hopefully when we're gonna come back.
Right.
So that's why I said I'm struggling. It's not that easy. I mean, you can do it, but if you don't get the crowd feeling, it's not totally the same.
Totally. Do you feel
Yeah.
like once this is all over, whatever that means, once everybody has a vaccine, once everybody is safe and can go out again, do you feel like it's going to be this renaissance of live music and festivals? Like, is it going to blow up in a bigger way because everybody's been stuck so long?
Well, normally in the history, after a big crisis, there's always like a big uh, renaissance kind of movement.
Right.
Like after the war, after like I don't know another like pandemic in the history, there was always like after like a big movement to rebuild stuff, and like there's always a crisis, and then there's always like a floral period. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I believe once everything will be done in any way, vaccine or whatever,
Yeah.
then like there's gonna be for sure a gold fever. Like everybody wanna do everything all
Yep.
over the place, and it's you should be careful. You should be like finding your at least having a strategy how to fight with that,
Yeah.
and then how to survive this period. It's not easy. Like lots of people are having troubles with it. I'm luckily I feel good, and I'm fine. I'm working a lot in the studio, but yeah, I have my mind already projected to the next moment,
For sure.
and I'm thinking about new stuff, the label, new
Yeah.
releases.
That's
Yeah,
awesome. I mean, there is a way. It is sad that, especially for a lot of touring musicians, that it's just not a possibility. But there is. I'm grateful that as a musician, there are ways for us to take advantage of time at home. We can do a lot of things from our home and our home studio. So I am grateful to have that for sure.
yeah, I'm grateful. I mean, I'm sad from a side, as I said, but I'm grateful for some other reasons, like even family. Like
Sure.
I mean, I'm living like the time when I was a kid. I'm now in my place where I grew up and I lived. I was living in Barcelona before the pandemic. Then I had to move here for like obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Like it's better to be stuck in Italy with my family than being there and having nothing to do. I still have my studio there and things like that, but like it's nice. It's nice in a way, at
Totally.
least not to be alone. I mean, I can imagine if there are people like alone, stuck in their own place without family and stuff. That shouldn't be so easy.
Yeah. But
So that's
also
why
in
I
a
feel
way,
lucky.
I wonder how have you felt a different type of connection with people who aren't geographically close? Because I think about us having this conversation right now, like you being in Italy, me being in California, and I've had countless other conversations where people are just in different parts of the world. And probably before this pandemic, we wouldn't have thought it possible we wouldn't have considered connecting like this because we would just focus on the people that are geographically close. But I also think there's something special about what's happening now where everybody uses Zoom, everybody connects no matter where you're at. I think there's a beauty in that, and I think the digital community, the global like digital music community, is more connected now because it doesn't matter if we all go to the same festival or if we all go to the same place, we can connect like this, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like for sure, this period like cuts down like all the distances, like even more, and it made it like, you know, like the online things are they got developed like so much faster, you know, like so you have less distance, and you know, like everything it can happen so fast right now. Like after this period, you know, like I think we will still be using all these tools.
Sure.
I mean, I think we in the industry, we were already using this because, you know, like for example, I had my manager in Berlin or Barcelona, and we had to, in a way, having meetings online regularly. Like sometimes you could fly in and meet them, or for example, once you have Sona or this kind of festival or AD, then you have like proper meetings. But in the meanwhile, you have to be in touch with your agency, with your booker, with your manager, blah blah. And then, you know, like we already use this, but right now like everybody is like ready to use these tools, so which it makes interesting in a way, you know.
Make some things more efficient for sure. We have somebody from the chat is asking about your favorite analog gear. Can we get maybe like a walkthrough of some of the analog gear you've got over there?
Well, like my favorite analog gear, it's always been, and it's always gonna be the 101.
Oh, okay. 100%. What do you like about it?
I like that it's simple. I like that it's like one of my first serious synth that like it changed my life. It's the synth like a lot of artists I love they use. It's just the best. You know.
That's awesome.
You can do so many things with it. You can do the sound of the 80s. You can do techno. You can do electronic. You can do ambient. You can do whatever you want with that.
Sure. I think people are curious about all the gear that's by your side. If you want to just like talk about how, like, is this just your general like at home setup? Like, are you using all this stuff together?
This is my home setup. I bought a new stock of synths. It's gonna come soon.
Oh,
like I bought like a lot of stuff. I should get it like in a few weeks. But right now I have, maybe I don't know if I can take my phone and show the.
If you can do it without disconnecting it, that would be cool.
Yeah, I'll try. Wait a second.
All right. Bear with us, folks, because if we have a little technical issue, we'll solve it. Don't worry. But whoa, we just caught another angle that I had never even noticed before.
Yeah. So this is my studio, my home studio. I already showed someone.
Yes.
This is the side you were watching, but then of course you have another side with the modular.
Whole other side.
Yeah.
That's a dream.
Speakers. Yeah. And then I have my record side with turntables. The famous one, the one I bought when I was a kid.
Sure.
Wait a sec. So yeah. Here I have a DX7, which is like a super cool synth from the 80s. I really like. It's used for, you know, like it's an FM synthesizer, you know, like some of the biggest hits like Take On Me from the 80s was made from this one.
Yep.
You know, Depeche Mode use a lot. It's just, you know, like I love this one because it sounds familiar to me. So sometimes I use it for making tracks.
Yeah.
Then I have my Moog, the one I really love. It sounds like a beast. Another FM synthesizer here, like a small
nice
one, Volca. TR8S, like you know, drum machine, main drum. Then I have analog rhythm. This Yamaha DX200, which is another FM synthesizer, more like a groove box.
You're big into FM synths.
Yeah. 101, like a small one. It's a mixer. The push speaker. I have the X77, like my sound card. This one is another thing that I love is Innovation
Base
Bass
station.
Station.
Yep.
Really love it. Then I have the Blofeld, super creamy synth with a super nice filter.
Awesome.
303, no cost, small module. Then I have my modular.
There it is.
Yeah, another FM module here, just to keep it interesting. And then some other stuff like I have this one which is Atlantis. It's like a 101 emulation, like it's a module.
Oh, okay.
Sounds like exactly like in the 101. And then that's it.
That's amazing.
This is like my small home studio. And then
a bedroom studio, no less.
That's my bed.
Yes,
that's where I sleep.
How to have a bedroom like that? I'm sure people in the chat are losing it about that.
I just woke up in the morning and then jump in.
You just roll over and boom, you're playing a synth. That's amazing. I wonder, since I saw the push there, like there's so much hardware, obviously, but I saw the push, so I'm wondering, because you talked about Reason before, is Ableton an important part of your workflow now, like your production workflow?
Well, Ableton it makes things really easy at the moment for me. I mean, since so many years, like because I use Ableton like a big analog system, kind of. I make some interactions with the Max for Live and like implementations.
Sure.
I used to layer effects, group things up, and it works well for me also for sound design when I want someone to reach a certain sound I have in my head.
Yeah.
So Ableton is like it's the best for me.
Are you also using it during live sets beyond production?
No.
Not at all. Just all hardware still.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Also, like when I make music, I don't use that much like plugins and stuff. Just maybe for mixing, but like mostly I record everything from the machines and then I tweak it a little bit. Like maybe Ableton is really interesting when you want to work with the audio files. You can transpose. You can you have the transient things down there. You can make really interesting rhythmical things in the back.
Sure.
And
very cool.
It's super quick, and for me I really like it.
Yes. We're coming close to the end here. I want to talk a little bit about your pro sessions that you have coming up. So for folks who don't know, the link is in the description to join the pro sessions. There's some early bird tickets available still. But do you want to talk us through like what you've got planned for that? Like what's going on for your pro sessions?
Yeah, basically I'll be talking about my way of making music. I'll go through my creative process. Like there was something interesting I want to explain the guys out there. I was like, like once the guys from 343 asked me like, what are the arguments you want to talk about? I told them like, discover the hidden sound that surround yourself.
That's amazing.
That means exactly discover the hidden sound is in your room next to you, or because I made a track that is gonna be released soon on Macioplex label, which is made basically by me recording the sound of like the vacuum robot cleaner.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah, so I just place the microphone up there and record all of the sound once you turn on the thing, then like moving it around, and then like I imported the sound in Beatport in Ableton. I tweaked it a bit, then adding some effects on top, and then I made the track, which is really special to me because it was a kind of it was a kind of moment that was a bit angry and blah blah. Then this came out, and then it was like, oh, this is interesting. So this is like for sure like an interesting kind of topic to talk about, because sometimes like once you're like a new producer, a young, where to start, but the possibilities are like really a lot. There's
Yeah.
there's a never ending, it's a never ending thing, you know, like you could go from, you know, you could even record your voice. And
Yeah.
you know, like you have so many, I think.
It sounds like it's perfect for folks who are, locked inside and need
Yeah,
like some inspiration. Also for some beginners that need help unlocking the sound, but also not exclusively for beginners too. It seems like anybody who kind of needs some inspiration and is curious about your workflow and how you create your music. It sounds like those people would all be very interested. So folks can check out the link in the description. It's this weekend, right? It's coming up.
yeah, it's Saturday and Sunday.
Saturday
It's
and Sunday.
2 hours, 2 days
Great.
workshop. I'm really looking forward to it. You know, like,
Yeah.
you know, it's good for me to make a difference in the activities I do from my place,
Right.
making music, but also like explaining and sharing the knowledge with the people.
And
I
it's
mean,
interactive too, which I think is great.
yeah. So people could ask me things, and you know, like I was always like a bad opinion about showing the secret and stuff I have in my studio. But then in the end, you have to be good yourself, and then always like reinvent yourself. But so I thought, why not? I can, you know, like it's okay to share things with the guys.
Absolutely.
So they can be creative and then make their own. They're always gonna be themselves, you know. It's just, you know, a matter of sharing methods and ideas.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm here for it. I'm so happy to hear that. Make sure you all check out the link in the description for the pro sessions happening this weekend. If you're watching this later for whatever reason, we'll have a recorded version of that up as well that you can get as in addition to the live version. But Fedele, thank you so much for this interview.
Thank you, buddy, for having me.
This was very inspiring. Yeah, and it seems like lots of folks in the chat are finding it interesting and insightful. So I want to take a minute and thank everybody who stayed and watched today. Thank you all so much. And make sure you do check out that link. All the links that you need are in the description. We've got the link to the pro sessions that's happening this weekend. Early bird tickets still available, so I suggest you sign up for that soon. All of Fedele's social links and music links are in that Linktree link in the description down below, as well as a link to 343labs.com where you can take other classes in addition to our pro sessions. Once again, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, buddy. And thank you for everyone to watch it. For watching it, and see you this weekend.
Yes. See you this weekend in the pro sessions, and also see you tomorrow for another episode of 343 TV in the hybrid home studio with Louis Beck. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a good one.